Welcome to my first wrap-up of the year. In January and February combined, I read 8 books total. 4 of those books were fantasy, 1 was a contemporary graphic novel, and 3 of them were dark romances, and I DNF'd 2 of those books. My average rating for both of those months combined is 3 stars, which isn't that great, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna review these books in any particular order, so I'm just gonna start with the one I just want to get out of the way, which is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. If you've watched every single one of my videos, you know that I love the Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber. I read Once Upon a Broken Heart first, and so I thought I would be excited to read Caraval, which I was, but then I read it and I didn't like it, which was actually so surprising to me, I'm not gonna lie. I did make an entire video reading and reviewing this book. I gave my non-spoiler reviews in that one. I did say in that I would make a section for spoilers for this book, and that's what I'm going to do in this video. The rest of the books in this video won't have spoilers though. This book felt so different from Once Upon a Broken Heart. I heard people defending the series saying you need to read this before Once Upon a Broken Heart. This is better than Once Upon a Broken Heart, and honestly I don't think so. You can just jump right into Once Upon a Broken Heart and enjoy yourself. It is noted that you may read some things in this series that will help you better understand certain things in Once Upon a Broken Heart, but I'm not too pressed over it. I even got a feeling that I shouldn't annotate just in case I didn't like the book, and I'm so glad I only tabbed it because my goodness, the main character's dad, like, I know you hear the police in the background. I hope they're on their way to arrest their dad. There's 2 main characters in this book and they're sisters, and they live with their father who is just all-time powerful, rich, but hella mean and abusive, all because what, his wife left him or disappeared or just died or something. I don't know, I don't even remember what happened to her, but after she was gone, like, he just became a total asshole, especially towards his kids. This man has punched his child in the stomach, choked one of them, grabbed one of them by their hair. I mean, just throwing them around. I'm like, y'all should not be living like this. And then when we get to Caraval, it's not any better. Yeah, they're not being physically abused most of the time, but the psychological warfare and the tricks and the gaslighting, and you don't know what's real and what's not. I'm just like, oh my goodness. I just hated it so much, and I didn't even like the kid. Brother, this book is over 400 pages. It didn't need to be this long. I hate reading books, and by the end I'm like, you could have cut that 100 pages. And the entire book we're trying to find Tella, her sister, but I do not care about Tella. Tella is kind of made out to be this person who is so reckless and impulsive and drops everything for a guy. I really wasn't made out to like this character, and then every time Scarlett saw her, now she smells like roses and she's the beacon of light of heaven. You feel me? I'm like, no, okay, well, okay, yeah, I guess. But the whole time we're trying to find Tella, I don't care about her, and apparently Tella is not what Scarlett desires most, and we find that out from someone that they run into, a dressmaker or something like that. And one of the things that she needs to do in order to get the dress is to tell this magical scale what she desires the most, and she was like, trying to find Tella, and then the person was like, that's not correct. So we're over here like spending a whole book on something that she doesn't actually desire. She's lying to herself about something, I don't know. And I just really couldn't care for this book. The writing was getting on my nerves. The descriptions were doing a little too much. That thing that I mentioned in my video reading this book of something that I just really don't like is the fact that everything was a prank except to Scarlett. I hate that so much. I don't know how many people is gonna remember this, but do you remember the channel TFIL with Elton and Colby and Sam and Corey and Aaron? And I'm talking about around the time when Andrea was in the group and they went to the Queen Mary and they were doing like exorcisms and stuff and ghost hunting and all that stuff. Brother, everybody knew that shit was a fucking prank except Corey and the audience. I was so pissed off when I saw the last video to that series, because I'm like, this is so fucking stupid. The way I felt when watching that series was how I felt when I finished this book. Somewhere towards the end of the book where Tella explains what was happening, the whole plan and everything, I was like, this is so stupid. I hate it here. I was skimming the rest of this book because I just want it to be done. I didn't even read the epilogue. I have a tab in here to make sure to read the epilogue before I go into Legendary, because I am continuing this series because people say it gets better with each book, and I really hope it does, because my goodness. But reading all I did just to get to where we ended up, I was like, it's not worth it. Dante in this book sucks. Even Julian, I didn't trust him the whole time, and apparently they love each other. I'm like, okay, okay. So yeah, that's all I'm really gonna say for this book. I'm never gonna talk about this again unless I truly have to, so I'm glad we got that out the way.
Literally traumatizing.
Next, I read Villain by Chani Lynn Feener from the Demons of Foxglove Grove series. This is book 1 in that series, and I was surprised by how much I like this book. I'm gonna be honest. I've never read a book like this before. This is categorized as sci-fi fantasy. I'm not gonna give any other tropes because that's spoiling. I also don't like to give what the book is about because if you're watching this, you're able to look something up. When it comes to this book, Chani Lynn Feener is a new author for me. I honestly liked her writing. Something that I didn't like about the writing that started to point itself out to me was the fact that whenever two characters would be talking to each other in a scene, Chani would write things like the other man said or the other man did this, and I'm like, what other man? So I'm thinking there's a third person that enters the scene when really it's just those two, and it didn't annoy me too much. It just confused me more than anything, but that honestly didn't stop me from enjoying the book. When it comes to the characters, I actually like the characters. There was one character in particular that I just fell in love with so quick because the way his character is just written, he's kind of like a yin yang type of personality where apparently he's just this very inviting person on a normal day on a regular basis, but as soon as you betray him, he apparently does unspeakable things to you, and I didn't know what those things were at the time, so I'm like, oh my. So to see him be like this silly, warm and humorous person, knowing that he can literally destroy your life, it was very interesting to read. There was one character I really didn't like though. We did not have a good first impression, and that's okay. When it comes to the plot, I wasn't expecting the plot to be what it is because there's a lot more going on than I thought there would be, and so I was explaining the plot to my friend one day, and when I was listening to myself, I'm like, what am I reading? This shit is a mess. This actually is a mess, but it's so entertaining. When it comes to the world building, this is a sci-fi fantasy, but I kind of consider this a contemporary romance because while we're supposed to be on a completely different planet, it doesn't feel like that. It still feels like we're on Earth. I feel like the world building could have been more detailed, but overall I enjoyed this story, and I was so glad that by the end I was able to just jump right into the next book because the cliffhanger, oh, imagine you're reading this while the series is ongoing and you had to wait months if not a year to read the next book. I don't know what I would do. I would be itching for the next book, and I think the series is still ongoing. There might be a 4th book, I'm pretty sure. I ended up giving Villain 4.5 stars.
Slayed.
The next book I want to talk about is Martyr by Chani Lynn Feener. This is the 2nd book in the Demons of Foxglove Grove series. This one didn't hit. This went down a path that I wasn't expecting at least to happen in the 2nd book, and I unfortunately didn't love it as much as the first one. There were a lot of things that I just could not overlook because I'm just like, that's so disappointing. To me, the only thing I can really say about this book that doesn't necessarily spoil it is I just wasn't expecting a certain reaction. That's all I'm gonna say. When it comes to other things about that book, I would say that book 2 was more telling rather than showing, because one reason why I was excited to get into this book was because we were going to get more of a certain character that we didn't get in the first book, and so I was excited to see more from him and his relationships with other characters. And when it comes to that plot, it was okay, but there were some things that were mentioned in memory or flashback that weren't completely written out on page, and I feel like if we got to see those scenes happen in real time, like it would have more an effect on the relationships between them and how I felt about a certain character. I hate when things are told to me and not shown to me. Oh, I don't like that, because I feel like the scenes that we did get to see play out weren't as good as the other scenes could have been. So that's my only thing when it comes to this book, but overall I just didn't enjoy it, and I ended up giving it a 2.5. I know, a 4.5 to a 2.5, that's crazy.
Literally traumatizing.
The next book I want to talk about is Wash Day Diaries by Jamila Rouser. This is a contemporary graphic novel. I actually read this graphic novel after reading Villain, and I honestly really like this story. I think the art style is truly so beautiful, and this was a good, quick and easy read that made for a good palette cleanser to such a dark and intense book. Oh, because I don't even know if I mentioned mention that the Demons of Foxglove Grove series is dark romance. But when it comes to Wash Day Diaries, I really like the characters. I think you get to know them a lot in such a short amount of pages. I did go into this book blind, and it's definitely not just about Wash Day. This book does definitely give diary entry vibes, but it also kind of feels like they're catching up with each other and talking with each other and reacting to certain things that they're telling each other in a group chat, which is pretty cool. I thought it was really nice to see their friendship and how they support each other. The only thing I didn't like about this book was one of the friends' reactions to the other friend going through a hard time. Now, me personally, I'm a spiritual girl. I got my crystals, I got my tarot cards, I'm all into everything spiritual, but I would not tell my friend or anyone what one of the friends told their other friend in the book.
A minute slay.
Next, I want to talk about Music of the Night by Angela J. Ford. The first 50%, I was kicking, giggling my feet. What did I just say? I was giggling and kicking my feet. I was so enamored by the writing. I was like, this feels like romance. I really liked the writing. It was so good to me. It was just so soothing and kind of refreshing, and it kind of focused more on the romance and the tension between the two main characters. I actually ended up making a Pinterest board for this book. It's not completed. It doesn't have every single one of the characters, but it's enough for me to imagine the main characters, which made me love it even more. But I would say for this book, there's like maybe, I want to say 10 characters maximum throughout the entire story. I didn't feel overwhelmed. The second half of the book, I would say, focuses more on the lore and the plot and wrapping everything up. I personally wasn't too invested in the second half of the story as much as I was the first half, and not because some of the things that were happening in the story were bad. I just didn't find myself being too interested in that. And from what I read from the author's note or something, I don't know, but apparently the author saw something or read something, a story, a movie, or a show of some sort, so she wrote this book to add more to a certain character that she felt like she didn't get enough of. And I thought that was so cool. I was like, okay, Miss Ma'am. I do see myself going back to this book to read my annotations, but other than that, I don't see myself rereading the entire thing. So for that, I give this book a 3.5.
A minute slay.
Next, I'm going to talk about Lights Out by Navessa Allen. I listened to the audiobook for this one, and I also read this in my Reading Dark Romances for Valentine's Day reading vlog. I give a lot of my thoughts on this book and the next two books in that video, so I'm not going to go into depth on these books in this video. I had no plans of reading this book, but I was browsing Libby one day and I saw that it was available in my area, so I'm like, I might as well just listen to it because I've seen other people really like it. I wasn't expecting to love it, but I also wasn't expecting to not like it as much as I do. And it's not that I hate it, it's just that I only like one thing in the entire book, which is Josh, the MMC. I didn't care for the plot at all. I felt like it was drawn out too much and it was slow paced. I guess I would say 3 stars would be specifically for the audiobook, but this story in general, 3.5.
Like 1/3 slay.
Now moving on to another book that I read in my Valentine's Day reading vlog, and one that I DNF'd, is Once You're Mine by Morgan Bridges. This is part of the Possessing Her duology. This is a short stalker romance. I also gave my thoughts in that video again too, so I'm not going to go too much into it in this video, but I thought I was going to like this one, and it was okay in the beginning, but then it just got to a point where I'm just like, I'm tired of this. I can't do this anymore. I need to DNF. The writing was doing a little too much. The plot was starting to get on my nerves, and I don't know if I mentioned it in my reading vlog, but in case I didn't, there was no ounce of reality in that book for certain things. Like, some things happened and it wasn't talked about after. It seemed like no one noticed it or no one cared enough to say anything about it to the authorities, and that kind of threw me off because I'm like, just give me a little ounce of reality, okay? Other than that, I DNF'd this at 82% and I gave it a 2 stars.
No comment.
The last book I want to talk about is There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark, which is part of the Sinners duet. I gave a lot of my opinions in my Valentine's Day reading vlog, so I'm just gonna leave it there. But this one disappointed me so much. This is not my type of dark romance at all. I don't like this type of dark romance. I can't connect with it because the vibes are so low that I don't want to go down there, okay? I DNF'd this book at like 70 something percent and I ended up giving it 2 stars.
Literally traumatizing.
So those were the main books I read in January and February. Now I just want to mention a book that I read for the most part but haven't finished yet, but I know I'm going to finish it in February. I just don't want to give my thoughts on it because I am currently making a reading vlog for it, and that is Bloodmarked by Tracy Dion, which is part of the Legendborn Cycle series. Y'all did not tell me that this book would become my personality, and I'm not even finished the book yet. Oh, it's the last day of February. Okay, I am gonna finish it today. I have like 50 pages left. I already love Legendborn, okay? I read this in December, you know this. This book is so good. And by the way, straight out of my Pinterest board, what? You know I love this book, okay? 6 stars. This is about to be a 6 star as well, okay? Because Tracy Deon's writing, I tell you, after reading this series, it made every single book that I've read, physical and ebook, seem mediocre at best. I feel like this series has gave me a hyper awareness of what I'm reading, and I don't think I'm gonna find another book or another series that's gonna top this for a long time. Bloodmarked, oh my god, I don't think you understand how much I love this book right now. Tracy Deon is literally mother. I have no words. She leaves me speechless every time. I need to change my battery. The way 2 lines can clear a whole chapter, the way 2 chapters can make everything that you felt while reading 200 pages before it disappear. Her writing is too good. Are you kidding me? This book is the type of writing and storytelling that is so amazing that it makes you angry, because why are you so good? For what? And girl, I love when something proves my opinion on something wrong, because I thought I didn't like long books like this. I thought I didn't like long chapters. No, I just don't like mediocre writing. This book is over 500 pages and I'm addicted to it. I think this book made me truly understand why people say things along the lines of this author put crack in these pages, because I'm truly addicted to it. I cannot wait for Oathbound in less than a week at this point. It's coming out March 4th. Oh my gosh. Wow. Again, I'm not even done with this book and I absolutely love it so bad. I'm excited to share my thoughts in my vlog that's coming up. It should be the video after this one, but yeah, this is definitely on the radar. And that was my January and February wrap up. Let me know what you've read, what you've enjoyed, what you've hated, what you want to read. Thank you for spending time with me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.